Welcome to the Hershey Podcast. I'm Brandon.
And January.
And it is March 5th, 2019.
This day will never be the same. It is the birthday of the Birth Without Fear book.
Yes, it has officially been published. It's in bookstores everywhere.
Yes, which we are going to go see for ourselves today, of course.
Yes, we are.
I mean, how can I'm not going to make it through this without crying. I can't.
It's to be expected. It's been an amazing journey. And
I just never thought I'd have a book with my name on it in Barnes & Noble. Like, what is that? You know, I'm just pinching myself today. And it's about something so needed and so important. I mean, I've been through so many different birth experiences myself and just know what it's like to not have options and to be disrespected and to be scared and to have fears. And then I also know what it's like to be completely in tune with the process and be supported and have a healing, positive, empowering birth. And I'm just so grateful that this book and information and support is now added into what's available for women and birthing people. So
that's exciting.
Ooh, yeah. There's just so much. It's amazing. And I've always felt that the mother I am will be my legacy when I am one day not here.
Oh, you're a great mother. So that's
just
a good
raising
legacy.
Amazing, thank you, humans who will do so much good in this world. And now I also have this, and I know this will also be I just know this will live on and help so many people. So
yes, it will.
We really tried to record the last few days of reading the chapters before today, and it just didn't work out that way. And maybe it was meant to be, because you all get to hear the very real emotion of this day. So with that said, let's get into the last few chapters.
Yes, let's do that.
Birth Without Fear, the Judgment-Free Guide to Taking Charge of Your Pregnancy, Birth, and Postpartum. And we are in the postpartum section.
Yes, we are.
And I think what I'm going to do, since we have a few to do today, is I'm going to read the first paragraph or two of each chapter. And then if we want to add anything to it, we can. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. So chapter 11 is called Cracked Nipples, Inverted Nipples, and Bottle Nipples, Feeding Without Fear. And the tagline for it is, breast is normal, fed is best. And I have shared how I feel about this many times on social media. So I actually just recently reshared a post of me nursing another mom's baby in New York City and posted about it, under there. So I have fed our babies every which way. You have fed babies too.
I fed them with the bottle.
With pumped milk and formula.
That's different.
But we have basically done it all in not just birth, but also postpartum and feeding. So I wanted to write a chapter that was inclusive when it came to feeding our babies. I have had the biggest debates and issues I've ever had on Birth Without Fear was during World Breastfeeding Week, when I used to post about that. And after a few years of, posting about Breastfeeding Week, I stopped, because the judgment on both sides and the defensiveness on both sides is so intense. And all I see is women wanting to be supported either way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Either way. So the only thing that I've done since then is celebrate and post information about Black Breastfeeding Week, because I think that's very, very important. And if you don't understand why, then please Google that. It's very needed. But when I had Breastfeed Without Fear on Instagram, which is now Mothering Without Fear, I changed it again to be more inclusive. So anyways, with that said, let me read the first paragraph, or possibly two. It depends where I go with this, of this chapter. Give yourself permission to love and feed your baby in whatever way is best for you in this season of your life. Bring self-love and self-care into your feeding experience. Give love and care to your baby and to you and your breasts too, as well as your mental and emotional health as you figure out feeding. Embrace your baby feeding journey however it goes. You and your baby are unique, and you deserve the grace and support to find what's best for the two or more, if you have multiples, of you without fear or criticism.
Love it.
Yeah, and I think that basically brings in the aspect of variations of normal in postpartum and in feeding. I talk about that a lot with pregnancy and birth, but I think the same goes with postpartum and feeding. There are so many factors involved when it comes to feeding your baby, from, like the actual physicality of it, but then also the emotions and hormones and mental health of it. There's just so much there. And after experiencing it 6 different ways, I just cannot ever, ever, ever judge another woman or birthing person or dad or whatever and how they feed their baby. Like, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, no way. So I'm going to read a little bit of the second paragraph, okay?
Okay, go for it.
It's time to set aside the formula versus breastfeeding debates and the mommy wars and focus on the individual mother and child or children. We talk about individual care in pregnancy and birth, but forget to do so in postpartum. We get so caught up arguing one way or another. Women on all sides feel defensive and offended. Why are we shaming each other when we should be our own most supportive advocates? We think the world is black and white because that's how it appears on our Facebook feeds. But in reality, we're all living in the gray. Just like birth, feeding experiences are diverse and unique. There are always variations of normal.
Always.
So that's the beginning of that chapter. It obviously is much longer than that and covers a lot more.
Yeah, it's actually a really informative chapter. I was pretty impressed when it was all said and done that there is that much to breastfeeding. And actually, the chapter only scratches the tip of the surface.
Well, I have to give props where props are due on that. And Colleen, who who I hired as the writer to help me with this book, we did a lot of Skype calls, interviews. I wrote, she wrote, rough drafts, back and forth, correcting, editing. But this chapter specifically is what it is because of Colleen and her incredible depth of knowledge in this area. She's taught classes on it, mm-hmm. And I remember I was at the airport traveling to one of the events when we were writing the book. And the only time we could meet, find a time to talk, was when I got through security and I was waiting to get on my plane. And we had the best talk about it. And I remember her saying to me, I was talking about something when it came to breastfeeding or pumping. And she said, what about moms who have to take public transportation to work? What about moms who work somewhere where there literally is not even anywhere for her to privately pump? What about, and she just kind of went on. I was like, wow. Her knowledge and her just thoughtfulness of all of the different experiences, not just those of us who are privileged, was incredibly insightful and made this chapter just so much more. Yeah. I would agree. So between her knowledge and my experiences with actually going through it, but just it's a lot more of an inclusive, diverse chapter, I would say. And we go over, I go over in it, breast is normal and what that means and what that does not mean. And then fed is best is another section, and what that means and does not mean. And then there's a section about care providers and to support with feeding. Self-care with feeding. I had to get that in there.
Yes, you did.
And the partner point of view in this chapter is titled, Is There Anything I Can Even Do? And you wrote that, and it's really, really good. It's actually kind of long.
Yeah, I think it is one of the longer sidebars I wrote. And that's about how it feels a lot of the time. So there's some interesting things in there that I mentioned.
So it's a really good chapter.
Yeah, it is.
I really like it a lot. All right, so let's move on to chapter 12.
Let's do.
You are not alone. Mental health without fear. So this was brought up because I brought it up and because I feel it's such an important thing to touch on. Now, I think this chapter could absolutely be its own book.
It could.
So I
Truly.
just want to say that I know that we just scratched the surface here, but it's not even being scratched anywhere, like anywhere else. In any of the birth books I read, it wasn't.
Mm-mm.
With that said, let me read a little bit from it. All right. So the little quote for this chapter at the beginning is, I am loving myself more so I can love you more. I really like that a lot. I think that helps remove that feeling of selfishness for self-care for many women and moms. If you feel you aren't enough, if you feel broken, if you feel worthless, if you feel your family would be better off without you, if you feel you're trying everything and you still aren't yourself or okay, I'm here to tell you, I love you. I see you. I validate you. I will hold space for you as you process and get the help you deserve. You are not alone. Your journey is normal. Don't give up. Mental health matters. Society needs to catch the hell up. If you're not okay, that's okay. That's a variation of normal. No more shame. No more silence. I'm writing this for all of you who are not feeling okay, but feel you have to appear as if you are. We can be strong people and also have breakdowns. We can be amazing and still feel lost. We can be giving our all and feel it's never enough. We can have happy moments and good days, even when dealing with shit. We can be vulnerable because we won't get better until we're honest with ourselves and those who love us. I could just sit here and read this whole chapter, actually. So, what do you think about that?
I think it's amazing. I think those are comforting words, and people reading this chapter, like you said, it just scratches the surface, but nothing else is touching this particular topic. So I think people reading it will feel like, oh, hey, this is not just me. There are others going through this, and yeah, there are a lot of others going through it.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Especially how we live now in our like nuclear individual families without support in villages or family.
Yeah, I mean, was it 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 Americans suffer from some kind of mental illness, and I'm one of them, so I understand it's not easy.
I saw Angela Gallo, who will be speaking at my all the Australia conferences. I saw her post a photo in her stories yesterday, baby wearing one of her postpartum babies, and said, can you imagine if every baby was born into the world being just fiercely loved, something like that. And I just wanted to like high five and jump up and down, because I know I've talked about this with you. Probably over the top have talked about this with you. And that's why I do what I do, actually. And that's why I wrote this book, is I just want there to be less trauma. I want there to be more love. I want every single baby and child and teenager and mother and woman to just feel supported and fiercely loved. And that's not happening. And I think that plays a huge contribution into that 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 in our society. And it's really, really difficult. And it's a huge topic to discuss and talk about. And my hope is also that even if, let's say, a new mom is reading this book when she's pregnant, she might get to this section of the book and think, oh, well, I would have thought that. I don't need to read the mental health part. I definitely didn't feel that way with my first few kids. And I probably wouldn't have thought I needed it. And then you get in it. And I'm hoping that that new mom remembers, oh yeah, there's that mental health chapter in that Birth Without Fear book, and grabs it and reads it. So that's my hope with this chapter in this book, is to just normalize it and make somebody feel less alone, when they need it. And I think it'll do that. I really do. So we go in and talk about, just mental health and how, unique it is and the variations of normal. There's a section on changing the conversation. Obviously, that's very, very needed. Care providers for mental health is another section. Self-care for mental health, and partner point of view, the new dad's mental health.
Yes.
I think that will help a lot, because we're like barely, again, scratching the surface talking about postpartum mental health for women and birthing people. So that means we're really not discussing it when it comes to dads, like at all. Like we're not even like thinking about scratching the surface. Like it's not
No.
talked about.
No. And it's there. There are definitely issues that partners go through after a baby's born as well. And it's not easy. It's not easy for anyone. It's a tough thing having a kid.
Absolutely. And I know some of you listening might think, I'm talking about it. And so thank you very, very much. But I want us talking about it on a bigger platform, a bigger stage, a bigger, mainstream, I want to
absolutely
change our views on all this entirely, completely and wholly. Like we need just a whole redo. Like, can we send it back through? Like redo that,
absolutely. Yes.
I mean, can you imagine if not only every baby was born into the world being so loved and cared for, but if every parent was just so supported and cared for? And I've met women from other countries who have come here and they're like, how do you have more than one child here? I'm like, I don't know how to answer that. We just do. We just do. And it is hard, and you do suffer, and you shouldn't have to suffer doing something so wonderful and beautiful that is full of an unconditional love that you'll never experience any other way. That should be a beautiful experience. So that is the mental health chapter. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, you touched on everything perfectly. Like we've said before, buy the book, read it, read that chapter.
Well, and if you are interested
amazing.
in more about our thoughts on mental health, we have some other podcast episodes on that as well, if you haven't heard them yet.
Yeah, there are some episodes in the past where I talk about having, me specifically, bipolar 2 disorder, but we also talk about postpartum issues as well, and postpartum depression, and there's a lot of it, and it can be a tough journey. It's an ongoing journey, and it never ends, and that's the hard part, is realizing that.
And everybody's feelings and experience are valid, but when you're a couple, which we're going to get into in one of the next chapters, it's really hard to actually do that, to hold space for yourself or for each other, because you're sleep deprived and you're feeling your way and they're feeling their way, and then it's hard not to take it personal. It's like a whole thing. So, there's a lot involved, and a lot of different variations going on there. Or maybe like you're single and you're literally doing it alone, and so there's a whole different slew of scenarios. And I just want to validate every single one, from the positive ones to the hard ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can validate both. So, a funny note before I get into chapter 13, which we'll talk about more about what we were just saying, is we were checking on everything this morning, and Amazon for like 5 minutes, the Birth That Fear book was out of stock.
Yeah.
And I think we all panicked. Like you were like, wait, what? And then my agent Stephanie was like panicking too.
Yeah, well, it's like on one hand it's a good thing, it's like it's selling like hotcakes, and the other thing is the other hand it's a bad thing because it's not there.
I think all the pre-orders got sent at once.
Yeah, I think they did.
So it was marked like out of stock, and they had to go in and change it, and they did within 5 minutes. But that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
isn't that neat?
That means it's selling. People are getting it.
That's really neat. Chapter 13. Hey, I remember you. Sex and intimacy without fear. And the quote on this are nap dates a thing? Because that's something I can work with.
Yeah.
Nap dates.
Definitely.
I think
this chapter could be its own book.
It could. And you know what? I think it will be. I actually could see doing some kind of a relationship without fear book. Wouldn't that be really neat?
Yeah, I think it would be awesome.
Let's put that out there right now. I think that would be super amazing. Like what healthy boundaries and supporting one another, listening. Like, I don't know. I think that could be a really, really neat book. But for now, we have this chapter.
Yes, we do.
Let's see. What do I want to read after reading this chapter? Sorry, excuse me. Oh, there's so much goodness in here. I'm wondering if we should just go to the partner part in this one. Okay, let me tell you the sections in this chapter, y'all, real quick. And that way you'll know as you wait for Amazon to deliver your book. Communication and having the conversation. I think that's the number one thing, is that people sometimes tend to only have the conversation with yourself in your head and then you like feel how you feel towards your partner or your spouse, and like they're like, wait, what? Like I never, so you need to
Yeah.
have the conversation out loud.
Yeah.
Whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, make sure you're having it out loud. Expectations.
Expectations.
That's another
yes.
section. I think that's really important. Expectations. Self-care for sex and intimacy. Care providers for sex and intimacy. And then the partner point of view. You titled it The First Time All Over Again.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty funny sidebar. I enjoyed writing it.
Did you?
But there's a lot of truth to it as well.
Well, here, I'm going to hand you the book and you can go ahead and pick a paragraph or two to read out of there. Oh, you already
right
picked.
Here. Yeah.
Okay, go.
Well, the first paragraph is pretty good.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
So, remember the first time you ever had sex? Remember how awkward it was? You knew tab A went into slot B.
Oh, gosh.
But the combination of butterflies and giddiness might have made things seem a little more complicated than they really were. Guess what? The first time you and your wife/partner have sex again after the baby's birth is like your first time all over again. But why? Get the book to find out.
The way I would have written that versus the way you wrote that is why we have a partner point of view in this book, because it's so different. I would have never, ever have said slot A, slot B. Like,
tab A into
tab
slot
A,
B. I actually got that from my 8th grade science teacher. He said that one time. We were having like a sex education week, and it's always stuck in me. He mentioned, he's like, you guys all know tab A goes into slot B, and we just all busted out laughing, and it was so funny.
Do you know what would happen if you treated teenagers like teenagers and said you actually use anatomically correct terms? This is not very difficult. It's okay. Penis, testicles, vulva, vagina, clitoris, labia. And there are many young girls who don't even know that the vagina is not what you see on the outside of your body. Like that's your
Right.
vulva,
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know that for many years. It's just, again, like we're not normalizing something so normal.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, we had sex education for a week in 6th grade, and it was this, everyone was giggling and laughing, and it was
It's awkward.
goofy, awkward, funny thing. And it's just never taken seriously.
Well, and let's be real, having that conversation in a school setting with your peers at that age,
Yeah.
you have to get comfortable enough with your own body and intimacy so that you can be comfortable discussing it with your children. You have to hold space for them in this. Like, don't we want our children to have a healthier relationship with their bodies and with their partners than maybe we had, or we had to figure out on our own because no one held space for us in that? So just like with anything else we've talked about, you have to hold space for yourself first, with your partner next, and then later with your children, and appropriate for their age conversations. And the more you normalize things, the less awkward or scared or scary, it is. Like, you remove the fear, a lot of it, you remove a lot of fear when you just have conversations and discuss it. But I think my favorite section in that chapter might be the expectations.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think that's really important. The communication, having the conversation out loud, and expectations when it comes to intimacy postpartum, I think is really, really important. So the first paragraph under the expectations chapter, I'll read it. Ready?
Ready.
Like with all things in postpartum and life, it's so powerful to examine our expectations. There's nothing wrong with going through a period of reconnecting with your partner, especially after such a major life change. It's our expectations that give us the false belief that everything should be the same as it was before. Or sometimes we even think things should magically be better. It's a time of transition. We can embrace the unknown and flow with it, or we can set up unrealistic expectations that inevitably leave us bitter and disappointed. It's good section, you guys. Good section.
Yes,
So,
it is.
I love it.
The whole book is amazing.
I love when you insert that kind of stuff.
And it's in bookstores now.
It is. So the book, the official chapters end with that chapter.
Yes.
And then there's the conclusion, which I really love.
It's great.
Because I wanted to find a way to include my thoughts on the self-love generation. It's just a term I came up when I was writing a post about one of our children. And so that's what we titled the conclusion, the self-love generation. Can I read the whole thing?
Nope.
No? Are you sure?
I'm sure.
All right, I'll read the beginning. The birth without fear philosophy is not just about having babies and raising kids, or about mental health and reconnecting with your partner postpartum. It's really a whole movement made up of all of us taking back our lives from the fear-based messages that have defined us for too long. We women especially have been conditioned to feel ashamed of our bodies and our feelings. So much so that we often have a subconscious belief that we have to listen to authority and that we don't deserve to be listened to. The heart of birth without fear is the belief that our bodies and our feelings are valid, that we don't have to ignore our fear, but nor do we have to be imprisoned by it. At any time during the journey of pregnancy, birth, parenthood, and life itself, we have the opportunity to choose nourishment, trust our intuition, do our best, and then let the fuck go. Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
In the book, there's an asterisk there, but for the podcast, we'll make it explicit today because it just, what am I going to do? Beep.
It was a very apropos F-bomb.
Thank you. You know, PG-13, if you have one well-placed
That's
F-bomb.
true. That is true. You get one.
And in the back of the book, there's of course, the conclusion goes on, and I love it, and I want you to read it.
Pretty solid set of appendices as well.
Yeah, there's their birth plan templates for all different kinds of births, right? And the glossary is awesome. I think actually you put that together, right?
I did.
Mm-hmm. And then there, of course, the notes and recommended resources. It's pretty cool.
I like the resources.
It'll be interesting, for you guys to see what I chose to put in the resources. It was actually a really thoughtful process.
Yeah, it's a really good conclusion and ending to the book. It's pretty comprehensive.
And then there's different hotlines in the back, and then like you said, and
then the index.
Yeah, the index. Because Hachette does that. And when they sent that over, I was like, dang, there's even like Netflix in here.
Yeah, it's quite the index.
Y'all, Netflix is in the index of the Birth Without Fear book. I love that. That's amazing. And of course, the acknowledgments, which is going to mean the most to me probably than anyone else. But the section to my grandparents is my absolute favorite. So that is short little tiny summaries of the Birth Without Fear book. It is out now. Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, online, Amazon, just about anywhere books are sold. And also audiobook. I narrated the introduction and Cynthia Barrett narrated the rest of the book. And it's on Kindle.
It's everywhere.
It is. And this weekend I'll be in Long Island, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut for our first events of the year. And there's a few tickets left to each of those on bwfconference.com. And then, I haven't shared it yet this week, but our book release party is going to be at Pomegranate Cafe and Ahwatukee. So any of you that are local to Phoenix, Arizona area, or even Tucson, look out for that. It's going to be on the 19th.
March 19th.
March 19th in the evening. So there's that. And then after that is Australia. And I think last time I checked, Perth has 14 tickets left. Brisbane has around the same, and Melbourne has a little over 20. And we added speakers to all of those as well. So
yeah, it's got a full slate lined up for those.
Yes, events. I know. It's really amazing. So
yeah, it's exciting.
Well, you guys, thank you for listening in on these book podcast episodes. We'll get back to our regular podcast now that we've wrapped this 30 days up. And we are going to go visit Barnes & Noble today, and I'll post a video later on my Insta.
Sounds awesome.
All right, you guys, until next time.
Adios.
Love ya.